Good morning, everybody. If I could ask all the panelists to please come up on stage already, I would be grateful. So if you see your name, that means you're a panelist, and so you should be up here. Hopefully by this time you know you're supposed to be a panelist. So good morning, everybody, and a very happy World Yoga Day to you all. I hope that everybody did their practice this morning. Thank you all so much for being here at the launch of the state-level Just Jobs Index, the very first index of its kind that measures the quantity and quality of employment across states in India. I'll talk more about this later, and through the course of today's program, you'll hear a lot more about how we constituted the index and its different applications. My name is Sabina Dewan. I'm the president and executive director of the Just Jobs Network, which is an applied research organization that focuses on what I believe is one of the most pressing questions of our time, which is how do you create more and better jobs worldwide and certainly in India. The Just Jobs Network is a global organization with a presence across different parts of the world. But our work in India is very much focused on both the supply and the demand side. So we look at strategies for job creation, as well as looking at how do we create a workforce that meets the needs of a very rapidly changing 21st century economy. I also have the privilege of being a senior visiting fellow at the Center for Policy Research here in New Delhi. And, I just wanted to say that generally a vote of thanks happens at the end of an event, but I think it's a really nice thing to start the event with a note of gratitude. And so I'd like to thank, of course, all of you for being here this morning. We are expecting a lot more people. It's still a bit early, and I assume that people are still doing their yoga practice today. But thank you all for being here. And, of course, our distinguished guests on the panel. So we're awaiting keynote speaker Shri Amitabh Kant, who's the CEO of Niti Aayog. We have here with us Mr. Dilip Chenoy, Director General of FICCI, and two men who I'd especially like to acknowledge, without whom this index would not have been possible. The first is Dr. Partho Mukhopadhyay, who is a senior fellow at CPR. Thank you so much, Partho, for all your insights and guidance through this whole process. And, of course, Mr. Anurag Behar, who has several professional credentials to his name. He is the Vice Chancellor of the Azim Premji University. He is the CEO of the Azim Premji Foundation, and he is also the Chief Sustainability Officer for Wipro Limited. But more than his professional credentials, I think he is a man whose personal credentials as a visionary and as a dedicated change maker far exceed his professional qualifications, which are many. The Azim Premji University provided generous support for this initiative, and the Just Jobs Network is particularly grateful to them for supporting this effort. And now I would like to invite Mr. Behar to please deliver the welcome address. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for coming over. I'll say three things, and the reason I say three things is that it's perhaps easier to sort of remember if you tag it with three, 1, 2, 3, right? And before I say that, let me just share with you very briefly, what does the Azim Premji Foundation do? We do three things. One is we have extensive work on the ground in 7 states where we work with public schools, with government schools, to try and help improve equity and quality in the public schools. So for this, we have a large team on the ground, about 1,500 odd people. So we are intent on trying to help the public education system improve in this country. That's one. Two, we run the Azim Premji University, that's in Bangalore. And the university is, I won't say unique, but unusual in one particular way, which is that it has a very clear social purpose. All our teaching programs and our research is focused on this matter, that how can we contribute to this country becoming more equitable, more just, more humane, more sustainable in the here and now. And third, we have a fairly large grant-making side to us, but that's outside education. We support other not-for-profits that work on gender issues, on people with disabilities, and many other such vulnerable groups. So that's what we do. Now I'll get on to what are these three things that I was going to say, and that preamble is necessary about what we do, because the first is this, that because we work extensively in school education, a lot of my life is actually in the really small places of this country. So I don't know how many of you will even know of some place called Bayatu, or anybody from Barmer district? Yeah, there's only one Barmer. So, well, my life is spent in the Bayatus and the Chautans and the Mudgals of this world, right? It's across the country. Last year, I was out in those places 120 days of the year. And it's just incredibly wonderful as to how spirited the teachers in government schools are, unlike what most people believe. How spirited they are. And that's the energy to our work. But what I see in this country is just an extraordinary amount of diversity on the ground. And all of us know that. All of us know this country is defined by diversity. But that is the diversity I experience every day. And the diversity is what kind of schools are there, what are the buildings, what qualifications do teachers have, how much of, what kind of gender equity exists. It's, to our conversation earlier, widely varying across the country, widely varying. And it's not something that we are unawares, but it's not necessarily the uppermost thing in our minds, that is the kind of diversity that exists. And if it can exist in the public schooling system, one has to just imagine what it is like on all other matters. So I live through that every day. And like I said, because of the incredible spirit of the public school teachers, it energizes us to work in this very particularly difficult sort of circumstance where people are moving kids from public schools into private schools, I think for no reason. So that's part one of what I wanted to say. Part two is that, we were deeply focused on the matter of education, totally focused on the matter of education. Sometime in October 2016, Sabina showed up, and we don't know each other. She showed up, and I'll just say it the way I feel it, which is that, perhaps most of you would have read it, that we are incredibly privileged to have a very large endowment. Our endowment is currently 150,000 crores. That's Mr. Premji's gift to us, right? So when Sabina showed up, I thought she showed up to ask for money, right?
For Just Jobs, not for me.
Not for herself. So, and I'm very used to that. With this kind of money that we have, I'm very used to that. Yeah. And I have therefore very standard responses. After a bit, after about 5 minutes of the conversation, she basically said, "You don't know what you're doing. You have absolutely no idea." Okay? So all this thing that you're doing is going to lead to nothing. You have no clue. So I actually woke up. It's a very rare occurrence that somebody shows up who's seemingly in the need of money and says that, you have no clue what you're doing. So that woke me up. And our basic point was that, look, how is it that if you're bothered about justice, equity, and humaneness in this country, why is it that you're not bothered about jobs and livelihoods, right? And in fact, before she came, the name of the organization, Just Jobs, I couldn't get it. I thought they just focused on just jobs, right? That's how sharply they are focused. Name says it all. Just jobs, what I'm going to do with this woman, right? Well, she came, and then I realized just means justice, right? That doesn't mean just jobs. Just jobs, right? Just jobs, right? Yeah, exactly. So, it was like one of the most important conversations for me over the past few years. It completely switched my mind that we need to do something about this particular matter, right? And that's how we ended up investing, recruiting. I think we have a wonderful faculty team at our university who work very focusedly on this matter. And we've invested quite a bit into this, and we think this is one of the most important areas of our work. But we also realize that the reality on the ground on this matter is such that there is no possibility of one or two or three institutions being able to make any dent. What you really need is perhaps hundreds of institutions, thousands of institutions, trying to understand the stuff on the ground and trying to then articulate what needs to be done on that basis. And that sort of leads me to the third point. And therefore, the third point was, we said, well, we're not going to do this alone. We said we must partner with other institutions. And then when that happened, I had to go back to Just Jobs because that's where it all began for me. And we said, well, could we work together? And I want to connect it back to the first point, which is where I started, and work together on this particular matter. Because, given the very little understanding and knowledge we had at that point in time, there's one thing that was clear, that one kind of solution will not be useful for the entire country. One kind of solution. You needed to break down this matter down to actually not just states, right? You really, in my view, you need to break it down to what I think of as livelihood regions inside states. Those of you who are familiar with Uttarakhand, the dynamics in Kumaon is quite different from the dynamics in Garhwal, right? Or if you're in Karnataka, coastal Karnataka has no relationship at all with what is there in northeast Karnataka. None. So what struck us together is that this is so critical that you need to break it down to levels where actual action can happen, right? So that was the basic idea with which we thought this was a absolutely critical and important research project. And of course, thereafter, other than that little bit of involvement at the very beginning, thereafter, Sabina and the Just Jobs team has done an absolutely fantastic job. And what I have read, I think is it's a fabulous first step towards this breakdown that I'm talking about. Because I do believe that unless we get down to the ground, real ground, and if we just keep thinking about national level action or even state level action, we're not going to move very much forward. Because the diversity that we have in the country, which is where I began, is that incredible diversity we have. Right? So I'm very, very happy, privileged that we were able to participate and support this research project. I want to thank all of you for coming here, and I want to thank Just Jobs for doing this project for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anurag, for your very kind remarks and for completely exposing my, should I say, veracity when it comes to the jobs issue. Yes, this is an issue I'm deeply passionate about, but it's an issue I'm deeply passionate about because I think it is the fundamental imperative for our economy and for people to be able to support their families. And I think the fact that we now have a full room really speaks to the fact that work is at the center of all of our lives. And it is good quality jobs, jobs that are productive, jobs that are just, and jobs that offer good wages that are the impetus for sustainable economic growth. So with this, I want to take a little bit of time to tell you about our index. I'm not going to go into the methodological details, but I'm just going to sort of tell you how the idea evolved and what are the main findings from the index. And by that time, hopefully our keynote speaker will be here, and we can actually formally launch the report online as well, and go from there. So, we've all seen the very conflicting stories about jobs. It's all over the news. We know that there's a lot of controversy around which are the appropriate data sources to look at, which are the appropriate indicators to look at, and different people diagnose the jobs problem differently, right? Some people say we need more economic growth, and other people say it's really labor-intensive manufacturing. Others say, no, we need to focus just on services because we've had service-led growth. So there's a lot of controversy around the whole jobs issue. And what is missing in this entire discourse is really a tool that uses sources that we can all agree to sort of at least rely on, that we think government sources are credible sources. If the government is conducting surveys, we're assuming that they're conducted as they should be. And we can take government sources and run with that data and put together a systematic tool to monitor how the jobs landscape is changing. And in this vein, I think it's really important to pick up on something that Anuragji mentioned as well, which is the idea of diversity in our economy. It's true that national level data, right, everyone's fixated on the 6.1% rise in unemployment, but that figure alone doesn't nearly capture the heterogeneity of our labor market. We've got people that are working, but are underemployed. They're not working in productive jobs, and they can barely make enough wages to be able to support themselves and their families. So top-line data and incomplete metrics like the unemployment-employment dichotomy does not do justice to what is the real employment scenario in our country. And so this effort was really to devise a tool that would use government sources of data and pull together a mechanism by which we could see how different states are performing differently on a selection of indicators. The objectives are, one, to allow central and state governments to assess their position relative to other states. So you can see which states are performing well and which ones are not doing so well. But also, over time, now we have the periodic labor force survey, and hopefully that's an ongoing exercise. And over time, we can build time series data that will also allow us to just have a state that measures its own progress relative to itself. So how it's done over time on the index, how its ranking has changed over time on the index, and how its scores have changed over time. So that is one of the goals. But perhaps more importantly, what we'd like to do is to inspire action. So it's one thing to just have a ranking, and it's one thing to create a tool, but that tool needs to be used. And that is part of the idea behind this exercise, is to get states and to get the government to really look at what are the underlying indicators that are driving their score on the index. Right? Is it female labor force participation rates that are very low on the indicator that's driving their low score? Is it gender inequality? Is it income inequality? What is it that is leading their state to have a lower score on the index relative to others? And this hopefully inspires action for them to figure out strategies on how to improve those circumstances and improve their overall score. So we do this already, but we do it for things like competitiveness and the ease of doing business, right? We've all seen the constant references to the ease of doing business and how India's risen 65 ranks in the ease of doing business index. All of this is very important, but what is missing from this narrative really is a focus on the issue that we hear most people talking about and people saying that matters most to them, which is the issue of jobs. So my colleague and co-author, Divya Prakash, so my co-author, who really has done a lion's share of the work on this index, he will share the details of the methodology in a little while. But what I wanted to do is really highlight 3 key points. The first is that we find that states that have the highest rates of growth are not necessarily the ones that are performing the best on jobs. And I think this is really a key finding, because so many of us have heard over and over again that if you generate economic growth, the jobs will come. And we now know that that is not the case. Neither is the narrative of jobless growth entirely true. The economy is generating some jobs, but not nearly enough jobs for the entrance into the labor market. But more important than how many jobs the economy is generating is the question of what kind of jobs, right? Are these jobs good, productive jobs? Are they jobs in sectors that actually promote economic growth rather than the other way? Let's generate growth and then redistribute the benefits. Redistribution is important. It is important. But our first step should really be focusing on what is the composition of economic growth. Are we looking at investing in the sectors that have the biggest bang for the buck when it comes to jobs? Labor-intensive sectors. Are we improving productivity in agriculture? Are we making long-term, enduring investments in human capital? So, Anuragji just told a story about how I went in and said, you've got it all wrong. He had an equally important impact on me in recognizing the value of basic education, and more importantly, the importance of basic education and cultivating employability from school years. We cannot skill our way out of this problem. We cannot fix the fact that 361 million youth between the ages of 15 and 29 are looking for employment opportunities. We cannot skill our way out of this problem. A 3-month, 6-month, 1-year training program cannot compensate for years of poor quality education. And so, yes, Anuragji, thank you for highlighting that to me as well. And it is something that has really become my mantra, because as important as skills training is, it's not enough. So the idea of looking at what the composition of growth is, and in that vein, we need to make the investments in human capital, and we also need to look at how we can have more rational and a simplified labor regulation code. We need to look at how we can protect our workers, which includes things like exploring the idea of a minimum wage, a national minimum wage, or a regional minimum wage, and also looking at providing universal health care and moving towards the universality of benefits so that we can really enable our workers to be more productive in their jobs. And I'm happy to elaborate on that. There will be a question-answer session a bit later. So one is that our index very much corroborates this idea that economic growth is not enough, and that the states that perform well in economic growth don't necessarily perform well on the jobs index. That's number one. Number two, states that perform well on gender equity also perform well on the overall index, right? Now, one methodological note is that we have 5 dimensions in this index. They are employment, formality, benefits, income equality, and gender equality. Those are our 5 dimensions. And we have weighted all 5 dimensions equally, because one of the criticisms of indices is that it can be a subjective decision to say, okay, I think this dimension is more important than this dimension, and that can change the rankings on the index. We have weighted all 5 of these equally. And that sort of absolves us from having the sort of subjective decision-making in the process. But what we do find is, despite the fact that all dimensions are weighted equally, and each dimension has 3 indicators each, we find that gender equality really drives the overall score on the index, which is fundamental, which is a fundamental finding that we have to take a pause and note that with a declining female labor force participation rate, with the struggles that women still have in terms of normative and social structures from entering the labor market, these factors are not just affecting women, but they're actually affecting the labor market as a whole, and that is actually affecting our prospects for prosperity. And that's a really fundamental point, and that's a key message that I would like for everyone to take from today. And then, since I started down this, this idea of the equal weighting, indices excuse me, I will be the first to acknowledge that indices are a subject of criticism. I myself criticize them all the time. And I'm also, my organization, Devya and I, are very open to criticism, so please share your criticisms with us. But we have also, we recognize that when you aggregate information, a lot of nuance is lost. That is true. Yet, having one number that takes a whole host of issues, very complicated labor market issues, and gives you one number that you can look to and see the changes on is extremely powerful to inspire action and to draw attention, right? We all use GDP numbers, right? We all look to the GDP figure. That's one number, but we don't, I mean, you know, we go with that. So why not also look at a jobs index? And as I've said, we've taken extra measures to ensure that the index is constructed in a way that is not subjective, but that is a very objective methodology. We've used government sources, and we've adopted equal weights for all the dimensions. But I also want to introduce you to a data dashboard that we have put together. We created a data dashboard that actually puts all of the information, the methodology, the maps, the dimensions, everything on a website. You can go to this website yourself, and you can actually play with the weights yourself. And I'll just give you a very quick demonstration of how we might do that. So if you look at the lights, can we turn the lights down just slightly, please? Is this working? Hello? Hello? Oh, that's a television thing. Thank you, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay. So if we go to the home page, please, you can see that when you go to www.justjobs.network/index, again, that's www.justjobs.network/index, you will see, thank you so much, thank you. So you will see that you will land on this homepage, which basically explains that this is a data-driven approach to measure the quantity and quality of jobs across the country. And if you go down slightly, if you scroll down slightly, you'll see that we have an option of viewing the methodology as well. And if you go to the page where we can actually change the weights, I can give a quick demonstration of that. So you can explore the index, or you can obviously download the full report from our website. But if you go to explore the index and scroll down, and you look at, wait, before you do that, just scroll down. Thank you. Just at the map, just the map. Yeah. Stay there. Okay, so if we look at the map, it's color-coded, so you can see which are the states that have performed the best on the index. So the dark blue are basically Andhra Pradesh and Maharashtra, that are the states that have performed the best on the index. And you can see how the map is shaded to show you how the rankings change. Now, as I said, we've weighted all dimensions equally. So if you go to the launch weight adjuster, you'll see that right now, each of them have 20 points each. But if you reduce all of the weights, let's just say we increase the weight on employment to 80, but reduce the others. So you can reduce all the others to 5, just to see. Yeah, so if we increase the weight of the employment dimension to 80, and also you have to reduce the formality. There we go. Yeah. There we go. Now you can increase that to 80. Yeah. Now if we do this and you update the chart, you see how the colors have changed. And if we look at Gujarat, for example, just scroll down a little bit, please, Mahit. Thank you. If you looked at, in the previous version, Gujarat ranked number 18. And now we actually see that it ranks number 6. So how you change the weights, which you can do. You can go home and everybody can try this at home. I encourage you to try it at home. you can actually change the weights and you can see how the rankings change accordingly. And this is an effort on our part to make sure that data is available to everybody, that our methodology is completely transparent, and that you can yourself use this as a tool. This exercise is only as good as its users. So please, we encourage you to take this, run with it, use it, play with it, and see how the jobs landscape in India is changing, and hopefully as we become, have more and more time series data, we can update this on an annual basis. And again, to Anuragji's point, we hope that as time goes by and more data becomes available, we can actually do this in a deeper way, looking at maybe districts or even doing a rural-urban divide or looking at cities. So the options are numerous, and this is just a starting point. So thank you so much for your attention and your patience with me as I took you over some of the main messages from the index. I would now like to call on Mr. Dilip Chinoy, who is the Secretary General of FICCI, and is also was formerly the Managing Director and CEO of the National Skill Development Council. So Dilip offers a very important perspective on both the supply side and the demand side of this equation. And we're very grateful to you for taking your valuable time to be here with us today. We'd love to have your key reactions and input on the index. Thank you.
Can I speak from it?
Yeah, sure, whatever's comfortable.
So thank you, Sabina, for this opportunity to be with you. First of all, I'd just like to congratulate Just Jobs Network and also the collaboration with Anurag and Partha for this index. I think it's a first. It's a tool that measures the pulse and of the nature of the job market. And as you've heard, both Anurag and Sabina talk about that the findings of the study has been based on data. And the data is not uniform, the data is not current. It is also a demand side estimation there. And it may not capture, the way it is structured, it may not capture the large number of the units that employ 1 to 10 or 12 people that are beyond the mandatory benefits number. So in that respect, some of the data may be skewed, but again, I think the study just underlines we need data, we need better data, quality of data, we need more current data. The second point, again, which again Sabina mentioned, has come out twice in the report, is that economic growth, put another way, GDP numbers, or gross state value added numbers do not necessarily mean you're creating enough jobs, or actually vice versa. Creation of large number of jobs may not lead to significant GDP growth in comparison. And also it captures the long trend data of the employment elasticity, which has been declining consistently from 1972 and 2011 as quoted in the report, but evidence is also available currently. I think the data also may be indicating something very interesting, and this is particularly in Goa and Kerala, and that the degree and cost of formality have an impact on the quantity of jobs. Industry is many a time criticized for asking for labor reforms, right? And it was very interesting to hear you actually say that the lack of labor reforms may actually be preventing growth of jobs. And consequently, it may be indicating that the rigidity of formality may lead or dissuade firms from investing in their states. And possibility could be that if changes are made to reduce the rigidity and degree and the cost of compliance with formality, maybe it might increase investments. But it's very interesting. There are two sides of it, and there's a lot of debate happening in the media today and amongst different experts that it's not necessarily that employees want a large portion of their wages to go in for future benefits, and especially as the younger generation wants more cash in hand. So you have to see how the debate pans on in putting away large chunks of money into future benefits, which are maybe not perceived as a benefit to the younger generation. Now, the third point, and it's very interesting that we're all talking of three points, but and each of your indices has three sub-indices, right? Is that just as you did a state index, right? For India, within states, actually the variation is huge. Maybe 5 districts in Karnataka account for more than 70% of job creation, right? So it's not necessarily that what gives you a state score, and I would strongly urge that we go and look at it district wise, and it's a very interesting. I think the dashboard is great, right? So whatever anybody may have criticism in terms of weightage or the type of data you want to analyze, you can do your own analysis. And if you're thinking of investing in a state and you favor a particular criteria, in fact, there are some automotive companies who have recently invested in India and invested in Anantapur and other places where there were no workers. And they said, our strategy is to go where there is no automotive cluster and where there are not enough workers because we want to do something for. So it has a very interesting opportunity for individual investors and companies to look at it, and also a tool in the hand of policymakers at the state level, what they want to do. One thing which maybe needs to come out and has not yet come out, if you look at the states with low women labor force participation rates, it's actually a little more than social. I think it's safety, it's availability of worker housing. I think worker housing is the single most critical thing. If you look at Bangalore, while the IT guys can afford all the new housing that is coming in, but many forget that Bangalore was also a cluster for textile and apparel export. And those people now have to relocate because even busing in people for 2 hours is not enough. So if you look at worker hostels and worker housing, and given the experience of, let's say, what they've done in Surajinagar for government housing, where they've got commercial at the bottom, there is a viable model, and I think that would really change. And then, of course, it has impact on wages, right? So if you take the real cost of housing and the real cost of food without anything, then the real minimum wage may go out of whack of what we can afford. And I think from an industry point of view, this is a great first step. I think there's a lot that you can even glean from this. And of course, you'll have the various states actually commenting on the rankings. But again, if you look at the top 4 states that account for the majority of medium and small industries, okay, 2 of which are West Bengal and UP, they come down lower in the ranking. So I think this whole, you'll have to see that how do you adjust that, because they are the larger employers. Given that the small and medium people actually employ a large number of people, right? So sometimes interpreting these rankings in a particular way may lead to big is better, not necessarily. More formal is better. which may not rightly be what it is. But again, I think, I was in a very similar situation when we were doing skill gap analysis of different states in 2011, and nobody had done one, right? Okay. So with hindsight, you can say a lot of things, but I think the brave are those who put, your first step forward and actually get an index out, and then you go along and developing it. And given the controversy that we have with the GDP numbers and the base effect, as you go on developing this index, just make sure that you have a reference base so which you can, measure progress there. And I think the idea of the next index should be to measure progress in state where were you 1 year ago and where you today, rather than where your ranking is, right? And how do you actually address the different initiatives there. Again, thank you for having me here, and congratulations on this great effort. And really, Anurag, thank you for supporting Just Job Network, because I think this is something which was really needed. And hopefully you will address the supply side at some time in the future. So thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Dilip, and to say that you've sort of been engaged with the Just Jobs Network in some ways for quite a while now, and I'm very grateful for your insights on, some of the reports. We're going to soon release a report that looks specifically at access to employability for vulnerable youth, and Dilip's been instrumental in helping us sort of in providing us insights for that report as well, and now your insightful comments here today. I just wanted to pick up on a couple of things that I think are really fundamental. One is this issue that that you mentioned about small and medium enterprises, and I think that the one of the explanations might be why some of the states that are really have a higher are composed more of small and medium enterprises, why they fare low on the index is also because some of these enterprises may not have the quality dimension as much as it shows in sort of as we've measured it. So indicators are of course imperfect. We are very much hostage to what data we can get, and sometimes data on small and medium enterprises, and I'd love to look beyond pensions and provident fund registrations to actually be able to assess, right? And so, but some of those types of things might be influencing the results. The second thing I wanted to mention is, I think on the labor regulations, I did bring up the idea of thoughtful labor regulations, but one of the things that I want to emphasize is that the debate is not about more or less labor regulations, it's about thoughtful labor regulations. Regulations that are rational, that are streamlined. The progress that we've made in terms of 4 codes, I think is a promising step. We need to go further, but it's not about more or less, but about good labor regulation that does both foster business, but also protect workers, particularly in an economy that is constantly shifting. And from that also flows this notion of what I wholeheartedly agree with you on is that formality to informality is not easily captured by one indicator or 3 indicators for that matter. It's a very large and complicated spectrum, particularly in a country like India, where you even have workers that are in informal employment in registered enterprises, right? So we've tried to do justice to this in some of the narrative in the report. As always, we could go deeper and deeper, and in fact, we do intend to go deeper and deeper into the exercise. This is a first step, and we hope that we will continue to get support from all the people in the room in order to be able to go deeper and deeper, looking at districts, looking at small and medium enterprises, looking at different sizes of businesses. Thank you, gentleman in the blue shirt, because you got my joke. Nobody else kind of smiled, but you got it. Thank you. And so we hope that, as we go forward, we can make this a more robust exercise, absolutely, to be able to have states that kind of look, at their own performance over time, but also use use the rankings to drive effect.
So for instance, Amitabh is a bit away, so let me just,
Yeah.
one of the fascinating things I found is this Goa and Kerala syndrome. And in fact, both the states have something very unique. They both are very strong tourist destinations. And they both are seasonal tourist destinations. So, perhaps that is why it leads to, some other things there, but maybe those jobs are not counted. And therefore, you have, you have a different kind of situation there. Of course, Amitabh knows more about Kerala than any of us in the panel, but that's a different issue there. The other interesting thing was, Delhi. Why is Delhi's labor or female labor force participation rate so low? It's amongst the bottom 4 in the country, and I think it's actually lower. It's a very interesting question to ask.
Male migrants are not
So that means if you're talking about migration workforce, right, then those states that have a high migratory workforce, right, will be skewed on that index. So that's another challenge that we need to see, and it's going to happen in all urban centers. And if you're going to say that the urban centers are going to be the future growth, employment growth centers in the country, if what everybody is saying, then you might actually have this in a bit more thing. And I think it's, again, lack of good worker housing for women and good worker housing for anybody. And that's what is actually creating this challenge.
I think those are very important factors, and thankfully we also have with us Partho Mukhopadhyay, who's really an expert in urbanization issues, who can maybe elaborate a little bit on this when he speaks. But Partho, before we save the best for last, I thought we would actually formally inaugurate the report. And unfortunately, Mr. Kant is doing yoga. Fortunately, he's doing yoga. Unfortunately, he is unable to join us because he is caught up in doing yoga. And so may I ask our two chief guests to please unwrap. So we have one report that both of you can unwrap. One can do the ribbon, the other one can do the wrapper. But we would be very honored if you would please unwrap the report. Okay, both of you together. Teamwork.
I'm in the habit of trying to protect that person.
Sorry, we're trying to predict your wrapper. Right.
Thank you very much.
I'll hold up the report.
We could all hold up our- And actually, is Divya in the room? Divya, can you please join us? You have a copy, but we're releasing it formally now.
This is like the formal enterprise in India, right? So you have to say it.
And now it'll go online. Thank you very much. So, Partho, may I please request you to offer your remarks? Thank you.
Much better actually. We can be.
Please elaborate on the urbanization.
No, I'm not. First, thank you first so much for coming for this particular stop. But we really, we're absolutely delighted to have Anurag and Dilip with us, representing essentially the core business aspect of what jobs is all about, and the education aspect, which is what the future is essentially going to hold for us. So in that sense, I think it's eminently appropriate, and I'm sorry that Amitabh was not here to join us today at this point in time. We hope he might be able to join us later, but even if he doesn't, I'm sure he'll engage with the report once he sees what's going on in the story. The core thrust of this report is essentially to start a conversation, and a conversation that is focused and structured instead of essentially people going at each other as to whether that structure is in place. And that's part of what also the jobs initiative, which CPR is partnering with the Just Jobs Network, is all about. There we're focusing on gender, technology, and formality, and all aspects which sort of pick up in this particular report. The other aspect that I would like to really highlight again, and as Dilip mentioned, was the fact that you'll have a website which is essentially allows you to work with the report if you want any further adjustments to the site, which will allow you to explore the index further in terms of the template. That would be even more welcome. We'd be happy to adjust it as we go along. Because again, as we said, this is not about this state is up and this state is down. It is about essentially constructing a conversation which will allow different parameters of what is important to reflect in the story. Right? So following this, there will be a detailed presentation of the methodology behind the index. So you'll be able to understand how exactly each of these components are put together. We have been talking about the three components of each indicators that comprise each dimension. You'll see them in your index, but Divya will lead us through some of that structure, and then we'll have a full ability to engage with him to understand how exactly this report was constructed and question him about how the changes that can be made improve. For example, Dilip was talking about just cause. Again, also, I'm sure that we had a great time engaging with the report. I have in the room my colleague Shomindro, who was, as you can see, acknowledging the report and structures, was helpful in trying to put us together a number of these structures in place. So thank you for that. And there's this wonderful team that I sort of, every time I engage with Just Jobs Network, I find this absolutely energetic, delightful, wonderful team who work there and who seem to crunch out things in absolutely zero time that I find absolutely amazing. So thank you for doing that. And finally, if I, without sort of taking any time away from Divya, really thank you for coming out today. And I hope you will be able to engage with the report, structure it forward, and then look forward to how we can take this conversation going forward. We'll try and see how we can do this. So thank you, Dilip. Thank you, Anurag. And Sabina, thank you for putting all this together.
So now I would just, I would like the Just Jobs team to please stand up so we can thank you all for really your enormous contributions. You know, Gaurav, Catherine, Divya, of course, Lena, Mahib, Ramita, Bhavya, Ira, who's outside. We're a small team. Anna, who actually is another connection to the Azim Premji University because he's interning with us and is actually a student there and interning with Just Jobs. So thank you all very much, because without you, none of this would have been possible, and without you, the Just Jobs Network would not exist or be able to accomplish. So thank you for your contributions towards bettering the labor market in the country. So my hard-hitting team. So with that, I will now turn it over to my colleague Divya, who will go into the details. We can ask the panelists to step down, and Divya will go into the methodological details. And then I saw some of you had questions, or you had your hand up, so we'll have a chance for question and answers right after that. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Dev Prakash, Senior Research Associate at Just Job Network. I am glad to present this report, and I welcome you all. So, why the Just Job Index? It is the first measure which rank a state based on their performance on quantity and quality of jobs. So, for the past few decades, India has saw a period of high growth rate, but this period does not get translated into the job creation. The employment elasticity is falling. Uh, there is a limitation of using matrices like GDP or indices which measures the competitiveness or economic opportunities. But at the moment, politicians, policymakers, and the private sectors, they uses these measures around to form any narrative. So now I will one by one explain how we did the entire report. So this State Just Job Index covers 20 Indian states and one union territory, Delhi. So we have excluded northeastern states and remaining union territories. The issue of, since Telangana got formed in 2014, so issue of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana has been taken care of. So I have, you can refer the report in detail, but I'm happy to take this question in question answer session. And the time period of this study ranged from 2010 to 2018, and we have used the entire government data sources to produce this index. So we have used National Sample Survey Organization data, Labor Bureau data, Annual Survey of Industry data, Reserve Bank of India data, Periodic Labor Force Survey data. This index focused on the quantity and quality of jobs from the demand side assessment. So we have dropped the supply side indicators pertaining to skills or education. The index consists of 5 dimensions, and each dimension has 3 indicators. So by doing this, we are assigning equal weight to each indicators and equal weight to each dimensions. For each indicators, the index uses a mean for the available data. So for example, if we have data available for 5 periods, then the data got divided by 5, simple average of it. And if data is available for 2 time period, then divided by 2. So that's the way it has been done. The construction of index follows the structure. So first step is the identification of the indicators, then how to normalize the raw indicators so that we can compare it across each indicators, because some of the indicators might have a unit value in currencies or in percentage or in ratio. Then it's important to normalize data to compare it and come up with a composite index score. And the third step is the aggregation of that composite score and creating the index. And every index or whatever econometrics tools anyone uses, it's important to go through the robustness checks method. So we have done that also using sensitivity analysis, and then the final index comes out after those. So the 5 dimensions are employment dimension, formality dimension, benefits, income equality, gender equality, and each has 3 indicators, that is labor force participation rate, unemployment rate, youth unemployment rate, share of own account and contributing family workers in total employment, share of workers with written job contract excluding self-employed, share of regular workers in total employment, share of workers with union association excluding the self-employed, state expenditure or pension as a percentage of state gross domestic product, share of workers with PF or pension excluding the self-employed, ratio of minimum wages to average wages, Gini coefficient of consumption equality, ratio of informal wages to formal wages, ratio of female to male employment rate, ratio of female to male labor force participation rate, ratio of female to male real average wages. Normalization of data is required prior to any data aggregation so that all input get into a comparable range. So there are 4 different ways of doing normalization of data. The first method is the ranking method. The second is standardization Z-score method. The third is min-max rescale method. And the fourth one is reference to a point. So based on our the characteristics of our indicators and the methodology, we have used min-rescale method, min-max rescale method, and a standardized Z-score method. So in a standardized Z-score method, it converts the raw data of the indicator into a scale by taking mean as 0 and standard deviation 1. And min-max rescale does the linear transformation of raw data into an identical range from 0 to 1. So for the purpose of report and for our web portal to be similar, we have converted the value from 0 to 1 into 0 to 100 range. So sensitivity tests are performed to check robustness of the composite index score. The test explores, so we delete one indicator at a time and examine the impact it has on the ranking of that, the entire ranking of the state. And the main of doing this test is to measure the relative shift in the ranking of state. Since we are doing both methods, Z-score and minimum maximum rescale method, so it's better to find out which sensitivity test favors which method more, which is showing more outlier effect. And so sensitivity test was also conducted to explore how state rank change when we are using it for two different methods, whether for Z-score or for rescale method. So based on the result of the sensitivity analysis, all the index calculation and presented in the report are based on the mean max rescale. But on the web portal, we have posted the data for the Z-score also and rescale also, so you can see the ranking and the score of each dimension and indicators on the web portal for Z-score and rescale both. So Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh have performed well compared to others. These are the top 3 states, and Odisha, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh have performed lower. They are the bottom-most states, and the developed states like Kerala and Gujarat haven't fared well compared to their demographics. The key takeaway is the best performing states on the growth rate are not necessarily the best performing state on the indices. The score of gender inequality dimension is directly correlated with the overall state level job index, highlighting the significance of equal participation of women in the economy. So indices are often criticized. The main reason is that weight in an index can reflect subjective priorities and can be changed to alter the ranking. So in our web portal, we have shown it to you. We have given the option where you can change the weight of each dimension depending on your priority of how you see the weighting should be. And so that's the key takeaway. On the methodological part, I wanted to explain few things in more detail, especially on rescale and the Z-score calculation. So within Z-score and min-max rescale also, we have used 3 different ways to calculate the composite index for each indicator. So one is high, one is low, and one is equal. So when the preferred value of any indicator is high, then we have used the high one. When, for example, the preferred value for labor force participation rate is high. So where the preferred value is low, we have used the low one. So for example, lower the unemployment rate, the better the performance of the state is. So it automatically takes care of where the high performing the state with higher labor force participation get higher value, and the states with lower unemployment rate gets higher value also. And also there are some indicators where the preferred value is any specific value. For example, the ratio of female to male labor force participation. So for this indicator, the preferred value is 1. Everyone wants the equal participation of male and female. So the value near to 1 will get higher as compared to the one which are farther from the value 1. So that's the things on the methodological part. Website, yeah, I will do that.
We'll just give you a short demonstration of the website, and then we'll take any questions and answers.
Where is? So on the home page, you get first two options to explore the index and download the report. And when you go down, scroll down, there are options to view methodology, and you can view the entire methodology here, how we have done the entire calculation, where it talks about how final index has been created using 5 different dimensions, how the scoring has been given, and then you can click on each dimension, and it take you much deeper, where it explain each and every indicators, how each and every indicators have been defined and which indicators we are using for. And in methodological part, if you click on the tab and if you click on the normalization tab, you get the detailed methodology here, where you will get how standardization Z-score has been done, where with the thing which I was talking about, the preferred value high, so we have used this high one for the high preferred value indicator, low one for the low preferred value indicators, and equal one for the equal the indicator for which we have any specific preference value. So for that we have used equal. Similarly, you can see min max rescale, how the calculation has been done, and also the examples which says which indicators should have low preferred value or should have high preferred value. So it also tells you about that, how we have done, which indicators we have treated as the high preferred one and which we have treated as the low preferred one. So it also talks about that. And you can view the key insights at all India level, and you can go deep inside at the state level also. So it has a state level key insights also. So, and coming to the exploring the index part, if you click, so you get on the right hand tab the both type of normalization method, Z-score and rescale. So currently it's showing the result for the Z-score method, where according to Z-score, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra and Karnataka are the top ranked state, but on the basis of rescale, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra and Chhattisgarh was the top 3 ranked states. And if you see the bottom is same for the both the method, whether it's Z-score or rescale, Odisha, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh get the lowest rank. And the performance of Kerala and Gujarat is also low in Z-score method also. Then you can click on the rescale method, and then it tells you about the score of the rescale. And you have on the left hand side a drop off where you can select a dimension, then it will show the score at the dimension level and ranking accordingly. So you can even view ranking at the dimension level, the scores of each state at dimension level, even at the indicators level, it dropped down to indicators level. So you can view at the indicator level also, and you can see the ranking at indicator level. Then there is a chart view where you actually see how a state is compared to all India on each and every dimension. So you have on the left side where you option to select the state, where you can select any state and see how it fares compared to the all India level. And on the right hand side, it tells you how to read this graph, how to interpret this data. And at the bottom, it has insight at the indicator level. So how the state has performed on that indicator compared to overall India. So you get the ranking on each indicator at all India level, so dimension level here. So, and you have the third option to view it in a graph form, where you can exactly can select an indicator and see all state performance at the same time. How they are faring on the chart, it will give you an idea. So Andhra Pradesh is faring good on labor force participation, and Haryana, Jammu Kashmir, Rajasthan have performed poorly as compared to other. So you can select any indicators for which you want to visualize the data. And Sabina has already explained you how to adjust the weighting parts. So here you can do that weighting part also under explore data. So you can use any different weight you wish to at the dimension level. So this weighting is available at dimension level, not at indicator level as of yet. So that will be the, yeah, that is the next step where we will try to allow you to even weight each indicator according to your wish. So, yeah, thank you. I'm open to any question and answer on methodological part or any part in question and answer session. Thank you.
Talking about these scores and min-max scales now. Simi from CISO Cybersecurity, we are also covering technology actually for talent acquisition. But having said that, when you talk about these scales and min-max scales, amongst the 15 indicators, where was the normalization done to the highest? I mean, which is the lowest, closest to the actual realities? You know, when you normalize data to get insights, you end up losing some insights. So amongst the 15, let me just put that gender parity, wage parity. Was that that index? Or where have you normalized the most to hide the maximum? You understand what I'm saying?
I think so.
You get what I say? When you normalize the data, you lose some insights.
Yeah.
Which are some few insights which you like to talk about, which you lost by normalizing data?
Sure. We will talk about it.
We can take a few more questions maybe?
Yeah.
I'm Professor from Indira Gandhi National Open University.
Yeah.
What are the sources of data? The data which are already available with the government departments.
Yeah.
Does it go down to the panchayat level to look at the
No.
full scenario, the
It
three-tier
doesn't.
panchayat system?
No.
Then do you have the classification when you talk about jobs, government jobs, private jobs, and self-employment? These are two small questions. One observation is when you go for collecting data and ask the states to assess themselves, self-assessment, don't you see the possibilities of manipulating the data and then giving you the figures which need not corroborate with the reality?
Thanks, Vidya, for giving information about the index. I have just one clarificatory question. In this report, you have mentioned that there are round 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17, 18. So I have a question. I know because I am very familiar with this data. So 2009, 10, and 11, 12 are thick round data, whereas 2012, 13, and 13, 14 are annual rounds. I think it is published by Labour Bureau of India, right? And then 2017 NT data, which has recently been published. So, is this right to aggregate all these data? Means I have a little bit doubt because thick round data can be comparable, but the Labour Bureau data, which has a very small sample, so I think I need some explanation.
We have.
Maybe we can answer those and then take the next round. We have plenty of time, so maybe we can answer these questions and then take the next round. Or, sir, please, go ahead. We'll take your question.
You had mentioned that people are not fully employed. They are, less work to do. Therefore, the question is, in order to increase their income and otherwise, you have to find a way of utilizing that time in some other way. For instance, in sometimes the land itself, in the case of marginal farmers, is small. So you have to find some other way in which they can utilize that extra time somewhere in nearby. Similarly, sometimes the water supply itself is too much and it is being wasted and there are too many farmers using at the same time, which may create difficulty. So the question is, how do you go about in finding and increasing the utilization of time and income for those workers?
Thank you. So we'll maybe answer this round and then we'll take another round. We have lots of time. So Divya, take whichever ones you'd like to answer and then I can go back this round.
So I will like to first answer your question on the aggregation of different data sets into one. Yeah, you are right. I mean, there are issues where labor bureaus have a small sample size as compared to the NSS, and its annual survey, and NSS is different. But it has, so the idea of dropping northeastern state is because of the sample size only. So we dropped northeastern states because they have completely very low sample sizes as compared to other states in all across all surveys. So that's the one of the thing we have taken care of. So I mean, even you see the case of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. So since after 2014 also we have included Telangana into Andhra Pradesh only for those indicators where we have the data in absolute term, not in the relative terms, where it could lead to some misleading insights. So after 2014 for Telangana, also we have, for Andhra Pradesh, we have dropped the observations where there is chances of this kind of error. So at max, what we could have done, we tried to do, and obviously there is always an issue of merging different surveys based on different methodology into one. So that's the so basically the Z score standardization. So there are more chances of dropping the insights in Z scores as compared to rescales, because if you normalize the value from 0 to 1, so it only takes care of the 99% of the reason and it drops 1%. So it creates outlier effect also. So due to that also, in our robustness checks is failed because there was huge variance when we are dropping one indicator and then comparing the ranking of each states. And when we did the same exercise for rescale, there wasn't much variance. So in report, we have used rescale and tried to not to I tried max that we don't lose any insights. So I can say surely based on the rescale, we aren't losing any key insights. So
it's a commendable job done, and it's going to take, various policy decisions hopefully will be based on it. So any mistake done at your level can be fine.
We know that issue, and that's why we looked into each and everything multiple times to make sure that we do not lose any key insights.
I'll take a couple of the other questions. So data sources, I think Divya mostly answered the question, but we basically use Labor Bureau, National Sample Surveys, Reserve Bank of India, and the PLFS, the Periodic Labor Force Surveys. And in the report, there's a table at the end that actually lays out the years for which we use this data. As you can imagine, as everybody knows, the PLFS just came out recently, so you can imagine that we had to actually go back and redo a great deal of the work all over again to include the most recent data. I also, someone asked the question about, by providing this kind of tool, are we not also giving people a tool to manipulate the story? I don't know who asked that question, but thank you. I think that's a really important question, and I think that's part of why it was important to us to do this effort to actually have a tool where we can compete with, I shouldn't have used the word compete, but but we can lift up the idea of the jobs discourse on the same plane as the doing business. If it's important for us to foster an environment that's conducive to investment, we should also be able to foster an environment that's conducive to jobs. So that was one of our goals. But the second part of it is really that I think this tool is very important, but we made it transparent so that we can also educate people on the fact that indices can manipulate the story, right? The Ease of Doing Business Index is only based on 2 cities, right? It doesn't reflect the entire reality of the nation. And we've made our methodology completely transparent, given you the data, so that even the public can actually educate themselves more and be more aware of the fact that these types of numbers can always be manipulated, and we need to be more vigilant. So in fact, I think by creating this tool and making it completely transparent, we're actually hoping to inspire and educate more of the public rather than being subject to that kind of manipulation. So I hope that answers your question. With regards to public and private, I think that's also a really important question. So we, in the report, also lay out the different types of employment. So we look at casual workers, at self-employed workers, at contract workers. So we do go into some of that. But again, we are constrained by what kind of data is available, and we haven't actually looked between public and private sector. So, but that is something in the future. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll go to a second round of questions, is with any sort of exercise where you're aggregating data, the idea is, or any survey, even just a full, quantitative survey that's not an index, anytime you're doing a survey that is measuring the reality for a large number of people, you inevitably lose some nuance and some level of detail. So in this report, and in almost every single report that we have written at Just Jobs, and with Anurag Bihar here, we really emphasize the importance of texturing any data that you find with real stories, real experiences on the ground, because no matter what, data cannot itself capture the realities, the nuanced and complicated realities of people's lives. Data is important, but it needs to be textured with reality. And so that is our attempt, and as we build on this, we will hopefully go deeper and deeper into providing you more of the, Just Jobs' own experience from the field, as well as other experiences from CPR and other institutions that do extensive field work. If we can bring that kind of sociological work or ethnographic research into this, I think that would go a long way in texturing the sort of broad aggregate stories. So we can take some more questions now. So this gentleman here, Anna here first, and then.
Yes, Ms. Savina, in your title and your report, there are 2 words different, what we call just creation of just job or good job.
Yes.
One thing. The second thing, the previous government said Jan Dhan Yojana. That is also very ticklish issue. They say we had come out with so much loan. So that has been undertaken, simply giving loan creates job also.
We'll take another question.
Hello.
Yes.
I must thank you for your effort, but my thing is, these are all government data. They are unreliable and very old. Anyway, but they are past also. Now my question is to Mr. Dr. Anurag Bedar. Sir, my question is to you specifically, to you. So the question is, with the disruptive technologies, cloud, artificial intelligence, VR, AR, Internet of Things and all that, India is rising in the sense India is trying to be in the world field. Now, with these all technologies, job losses will be tremendous. We are not very much now thorough to understand what it is. I had interaction with the Secretary Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. I told him, you IS fellows in the civil service, the standard is class 10. with this state standard, how can you formulate a policy which have all these disruptive technologies? Is that we'll hire experts. Unless you know, you cannot hire anybody. Now, with the reality is, we are having underemployment, unemployment, huge amount of job loss, and in 3 years' time, the thing is so bad, one cannot even tell, and nobody is telling about it. Now, question is to Mr. Bedar, what is the solution? Because I somehow, the organization you represented, I have got a high regard for your organization. You tell me, sir, with this sort of disruptive technology arena, what is your take so that we can have a healthy job market?
Very important question. Please, go ahead. Sure, why not? And it was such a passionate question.
Go there and tell.
Everybody wants to see you. You should come back up.
Sir, I can only disappoint you. I can only disappoint you, I said. I don't have an answer. I think that on the matter of artificial intelligence, on the matter of big data analytics, on these matters that you're talking about, disruptive technologies, right? See, I think even those who are at the cutting edge of this technology, I don't think we understand what is the trajectory. We don't understand it. And therefore, we understand even less what is going to be the impact of it. I feel it is important to acknowledge that, because unless you acknowledge your ignorance, you will not even gain the knowledge, right? So I think the first thing is, I don't think there is a good understanding of the trajectory of these disruptive technologies, let alone their effect on society and employment. And their effect is not only limited to the matter of employment and livelihoods. We know those effects are far deeper. We know how they are impacting, let's talk about attention spans of children at the school level, right? So I think we are at the cusp of some kind of totally transformational changes, perhaps the kind of industrial revolution changes that happened in the early part of the 19th century, and we don't understand its impact. So I think that's part one. Part two, I also think that the impact of the disruptive technologies on the matter of jobs in the near to mid-term is vastly exaggerated. In the near to mid-term. We don't know what's going to happen 25 years down the line, but I don't see the disruptive technologies having a significant impact on the matter of jobs and livelihood over the next 5 to 10 years. In the third point I want to make is, and the reason I say that, is that I think at this moment there are far bigger problems with the matter of jobs than the matter of disruptive technologies to deal with in our country. So if you think of, let's say, 100 issues that are there with jobs, on the matter of creating just jobs, yes, maybe disruptive technologies has a role to play, but it's perhaps an issue of currently of 73rd importance, right? So I would think that it's far more important for us to focus on many of the critical matters that are there underlying this index and many other things that are there, right? So, I'm sorry, I know I'm associated with one of the largest IT companies in the world. So this is an insider talking to you, and the insider's honest confession is, we don't know, right?
If I could just quickly add to that and take sort of chair prerogative here. So as always, Anuragji, I'm going to respectfully disagree with part of what you've said, because that is what I've become accustomed to doing. So I agree for the most part, but we've all heard of the sort of future of work campaigns that are, multiple organizations are running with this idea of future of work. I agree completely that we don't know how technology is going to actually disrupt labor markets. And I appreciate the idea that there's a number of, what did you say, 73 factors that are before that we need to address before. Absolutely. What I do think, and I personally find to be very frightening, is that we are starting to see that technology is extremely skill biased. And rather than whether our economies are going to lose jobs or gain jobs, is I think actually a secondary question to the idea that we are already seeing that technology is exacerbating inequities that already exist in our economy. Even people that are, using an application to be an Uber driver or an Ola driver or take up platform economy work have to have requisite levels of education. You have to actually be able to read a map, and you have to actually be able to read, have basic skills in order to be able to access, these apps and that kind of work. So that's just one example of how technology is extremely skill biased. And if we don't start to really get our basics right, really get our basic education right, we're already not prepared for a technologically driven world. And in the future, I think this situation is going to get even worse. So the skill bias nature of technology is much more frightening than this question of either more or less jobs. But I agree completely. We don't know enough. We need a lot more insight, a lot more work. And, the ability for data and research and institutions to actually keep up with the pace and scale of change is really limited. So we're actually racing against ourselves as far as these disruptive technologies are concerned. And we do need to start thinking about it and regulating, to be honest, in different ways. I also wanted to I appreciate you pointing out the issue of just and good jobs. And to be completely honest with you, we changed it. It was creation of just jobs. We changed it on the agenda because we were just using the word just too many times. It was really, but by just jobs, we're referring to really jobs that have both the quantity and the quality of work embodied in what a just jobs is. So productivity, wages, rights, as well as the right to work. Right? Jandan. So I mean, my organization has done a lot of work on looking at sort of the importance of fostering small and medium enterprises and helping them grow. I don't think that any singular factor is a determinant in helping businesses grow. I think that it has to be an ecosystem of support. I personally don't think that the focus on entrepreneurship alone is going to fix our employment challenge. I don't think everyone is made to be an entrepreneur. I don't think entrepreneurship is easy, and I don't think that just having access to finances is going to make someone an entrepreneur. So I'll leave it at that in terms of my... I haven't seen the numbers, so I would have to actually do the assessment, but I don't think that one scheme alone can create jobs or help us to get out of this job problem.
It's a wherewithal.
Yes.
It's a wherewithal.
Yes.
I have got great respect of Modi ji,
Yes.
but his job creation, I am totally in a perplexed situation. He understands that big corporates, FIIs, all those fellows will come and they will trickle jobs. It will not. With the modern technology, which Mr. Anurag, I am little deferring on that, it is coming much faster than what you think. Anyway, with those technologies, jobs will vanish. Because I have seen, I'm a professional person, I have seen that with these technologies, what 1,000 people are, you can have 10 people who will do the job. So job will not be created the way he thinks. And then what is the way out? Way out is total structural change, right from the nursery to this education, ethics, values, everywhere. Every whole country will be in a churning situation so that we are a different country altogether, as happened in South Korea. This sort of total you know, what changes is there, including ethics, values, moral, everything. Then only something will come. Otherwise, in 3 years' time, there will be huge upsetness. Total young people will be totally frustrated, and there will be huge problem everywhere, which nobody can stop it.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's, so I think there's a lot of people with, if we could, yes, thank you.
Firstly, Sabina and the Just Jobs Network, thank you very much. This is a very, very useful, and as a practitioner on the ground, I think this will be useful. But I want to suggest a next project for you that would be equally useful along with this is a sectoral index. Along with these weightages, I think it would be very useful to see which sectors are producing what kind of jobs, have more or less participation from women, and what are the reasons. And I also second your suggestion that this needs to be textured with qualitative information. You know, I can't resist but respond to some of the issues that were presented from the dais, but not necessarily the Just Jobs Network. Mr. Chinoy, if I could, just direct this to you. I've been hearing, even from some top exporters in Gurgaon, this issue of hostels for the working people, especially for the working women. It's there in some of the, at least in the Haryana government's policy pronouncements, it's there. My question is, why are the industry associations like yours not working on it with the state governments to actually provide for that kind of housing? Does this have to do with the capture of the real estate market by certain forces? If you could shed some light, that if industry itself has identified affordable housing as an issue, why is it not working on it? Or if you're working on it, in what direction would you be taking that? And I can't help but also register my protest at your remark about cost of formalization. I think, and here, if we can also talk about a little bit about what, not just the future of work, but what the current evolving employment framework is looking like. The gig economy, the large swaths of casual contract workers who are not being brought into the formalization network, all in the name of costs to industry. Given the fact that benefits are no longer, a benefits framework continues to be linked to employment, and yet a lot of our workers are falling out of the benefits network, net, is it possible to think of a framework where industry contributes along with the government and some amount by the workers to create, as Sabina was saying, a universal system of benefits? What would your thoughts be on this? Because these are the real issues that would texture some of the data that is being provided by this index. Thank you.
Sure.
So thank you for that two questions. I think second one was very easy. It's not an industry protest. I just said that today's millennium worker does not take into account what is saved for him for the future. He wants money in hand. So if you're doing a C2C kind of thing, for him it's not important, right? He wants money in hand to be able to spend. And second, pension, EPF, ESI and all are things that you contribute to. That's not the cost that I was referring to. The cost of adhering to regulation when you have to constantly report. If a subway person has to file 22 reports only to the labor inspector, then that's a huge cost. So we need to actually understand how we simplify this and go forward. I think on worker housing, there are three challenges. One is land, right? So if there's no land available and the state governments have the land, and in land then you have two other issues, right? You have an issue of change of utilization of land. So if you have an industrial estate, you can't build worker housing there, right? So, you're actually defeating the whole purpose of being able to get a worker to stay close to the place of work so they don't have to travel, etc. The second issue the states are finding, how do you make it a viable model, right? And actually Delhi has demonstrated the viable model. But then again, it is landing into an environmental issue and a traffic issue. If you look at the recent government housing projects in Sarojini Nagar and near Ames and all of that, they have found a very sustainable model where NBCC has actually built it, and you have given the bottom three things for commercial and other use, and the government people are using the housing on top, and NBCC has to maintain it. That's a great model to replicate all over the country. But then land use changes, location, how do you get onto it? There are many companies who do it. You want to go, just go to Nalli. Nalli's got worker housing behind the South Extension thing. You go to Swagat, there are a lot of people who have done it, but it's all small scale. That's their own initiative. But you need this in a large scale across the country in a sustainable manner to make a difference. And I think that's the real challenge. It's not a real estate play. We need to actually allow a lot of things to happen there. And then, again, who bears the cost for unutilized accommodation, for how to that? You need to create a market for it. And I think it's very, very possible. If you look at Bangladesh, for example, the ease of doing business, Bangladesh is ranked lower than India, but their textile or apparel industry is, far ahead of India's. But they have addressed worker housing, they have addressed the wage issue, and they've done it in a different manner.
Mr. Can I, like Noida, it is a total industrial act they have brought it, Noida. But it was not a housing, but subsequently housing is a major industry in Noida than regular industry. They brought Noida under Act 76 Industrial Act, and they were not giving housing to other people, but now it is more of housing projects in Noida than real industry.
So I think your point is very valid. States are trying to find a solution to it, but unless we address that, we won't be able to increase workforce participation rates. Migration challenges would be there. So I think there are different issues. You have to create the ecosystem. I think this word of ecosystem was actually used very many times from the dais.
If we could get a microphone to Ravinder, please. Here first.
So a couple of small questions. One is, around this platform economy business, but I had a question that, we could be making a conceptual distinction between job and work today. We might necessarily need to make that distinction. Jobs may not be created, but some kind of work is there. And the platform economy type of work is a very, good illustration of that. So I was wondering if this counting of jobs, your index and the government data collection, how does that take it into account? And also that people are not maybe doing just one type of work, but multiple types of work in terms of gaining their livelihood. So this complexity that is entering the work world, where you don't have a job, but you have some kind of work. So I was wondering, how one thinks about that when one is constructing an index. And the second question that I wanted to ask.
Ravinder, would you mind if we came back to the questions again? Thank you so much. Thank you. So our Honorable Shri Amitabh Kant has joined us. He is the Chief Executive Officer of Niti Aayog, And sir, I hope you enjoyed your yoga session this morning. I understand that is what held you up. So we're very happy to have you here. We've had a very vibrant discussion this morning to launch the Just Jobs state-level index for India. And I would like to officially present you with a copy.
Thank you very much.
And,
Thank you.
and maybe we can have another, yes,
Sure.
another picture. So.
Come, please.
Yeah, no, it's here. Thank you very much. And so, sir, we've also, I would like to just take a minute to show you our, Mahip, can you please, that in the interest of, so the idea behind the generation of this index is for us to really have, is for us to create a tool that is available to policymakers to really have a systematic and regular assessment of the quantity and quality of jobs around the country, given the import of this issue. We have actually wanted to create a tool that is also completely transparent. As we know, indices are often the subject of criticism because they aggregate data in ways that can reflect subjective priorities. And so we've actually ranked all of our dimensions equally, and we've created a data dashboard here that actually allows us to make all of the data available, that actually allows the user to change the ranks on the index. So if we, for example, go to the Explore Your Index section, go to the launch of the weight adjuster, we can actually, right now you can see that all of the different dimensions of the index are weighted equally. We can actually change the weights according to our will. So if I just reduce these and then if I update the chart accordingly, as you can see, it actually changes the entire rankings on the index. So we wanted you to please be the one to come and launch our report, as well as for you to please share your insights on this data dashboard that we've made available, to make data available and transparent, and to be able to use these rankings to inspire action on part of policymakers to create more and better jobs. So thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to your remarks.
Thanks.
Let me, Sabina, Anurag Bihar, Dilip, Mr. Mukhopadhyay, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first say that I'm really delighted that there is a Just Jobs Index, and the Just Jobs Network, the Center for Policy Research, and Azim Premji University have all collaborated together to bring out this data-driven approach. I'm a great believer in this, and my belief is that once you put out data in public domain and people come to know, it makes a huge amount of difference. When I was Secretary DIPP, we started ranking states on ease of doing business. And this was again a data-driven approach. And the first year we did this, Gujarat came number 1. The next year we did it, Andhra came number 1. And the third year we did it, Telangana beat both Andhra and Gujarat. But the good thing was that Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, which were in the eastern part of India, did extremely well, and they came 4th and 5th. And if you could radically transform through data and through competition, if you could radically transform the eastern part of India, it would make a huge, huge difference. We are also doing this aspirational district program, where we are working with about 100 15 districts, the most backward districts of India, and across 49 indicators on education, health, nutrition, we make the states compete only on data, real-time monitoring of data, and we put this out in public domain. So every collector, when I was a collector, there was no data available on any of those indicators. We had data which was 5 years, 6 years, behind time, so we never knew how the district was performing then. Now that we are putting this out in public domain on each one of these data points, and all these districts are competing with each other, it's making a huge difference. And our challenge to these districts is that it's not about money, but it's about good governance, it's about putting teachers, it's about putting doctors, it's about creating a sense of motivation. We're seeing a huge difference, and our view is that it's possible to turn around and make these districts amongst the best performing districts in the states on each indicator, because they know what is the gap between the best performing district in the state and their performance and the best performing district in India. So there's a huge challenge for all these collectors and their entire team, and therefore nothing like putting out data on a real-time basis out, and best is if you could do this approach to measure the quality of good jobs in public domain. So I think this report on the state level Just Jobs Index for India, as it is pointed out, the dream of India with more productive jobs, economic mobility, and the opportunity for all, and particularly the youth, to realize their aspirations requires truly a strong labor market. And India, with its very immense talent, the spirit of innovation, and of making the best use of available resources, has always had the potential to achieve this. And the state level Just Jobs Index makes a very significant breakthrough in its attempt to measure both the quality and the quantity of job, as it greatly broadens the discourse on employment beyond the incomplete metric of just unemployment. In recent years, in India, we've taken several steps to strengthen the economy, enhance opportunities for youth and the working citizens, as well as create the environment in which businesses can function with ease. And a huge focus has been laid on ease of doing business. We've also focused on improving data on employment and livelihood, stressing the availability of high-frequency data and greater use of technology in data collection. So the finding of the report on state-level Just Jobs Index for India across states suggests that states that perform better on the gender equality dimension are also associated with a better overall score on the index. Measures that promote fair and equal participation of both men and women in the economy undoubtedly lead to better growth and prosperity. And I would also like to stress some points that can be transformative in ensuring better productivity and aligned incomes and help youths to realize their aspirations. And my first view is that revitalizing education skill development with a focus on skills for the future is critical. Introducing aptitude-based learning, STEM learning for girls, training in automation, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and blockchain engineering, all these are critical, and this is important. We also need to focus on building transferable skills such as problem solving, confidence building, communication, and digital literacy. All these are critical. The softer element of education is very critical. Secondly, there has to be a focus on hands-on training. We need to focus greatly on mentoring, job shadowing, and apprenticeships, and give the youth hands-on learning and role models. We need also to introduce more flexibility in learning through online and app-based vocational training and education, and through providing mobile training facilities for persons living in remote areas. I think there's also a need to promote Digital India for entrepreneurship development, because there's a huge digitization that has taken place across the government. If you look at GST, totally digital. If you look at Ayushman Bharat, 500 million Indians being insured, which is bigger than the population of USA, Europe, and Mexico put together. Totally paperless, cashless, digital. If you look at income tax, direct tax 99% of Indians are paying direct tax online, and it's all digital. So the government is working on massively improving rural road and digital connectivity so that the youth from the villages are able to set up their own ventures and become job creators rather than job seekers, and pushing them into startup movement. I think also there is a need to harness technology for more and better opportunities for employment. Technology-enabled platforms. You look at Uber, Ola, Swiggy, Zomato, Urban Clap, etc. They've all brought in a revolution of sorts in the employment scenario in the country. This is a gig economy, and a lot of employment across the world is taking place in these areas, in these startups. And more people, particularly the youth, have the opportunity to be a part of these startups and change their life stories. And such technology-enabled platforms also have the potential to include greater number of women who can opt for work from very remote locations, or work that give them more flexibility to balance their responsibilities. Interestingly, such platforms can also disadvantage, they also provide a huge opportunity for people from different regions of the country to push. They provide a massive opportunity to people from different regions of the country, particularly in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Then there are sectors with growing potential for job creation. Apparel, textiles, leather, tourism, hospitality, and construction continue to have potential for job creation. And these need to be further expanded. We need to keep expanding skill training in these sectors. I feel that each region and each state in India has its unique potential, and that it can be harnessed in innovative ways. Each one of our states has great potential to expand tourism and improve the quality of experience for tourists. Tourism needs to cater differently to different segments of tourists. I think there's massive opportunity in this sector. Then there is a need to establish better market linkages and sustainable enterprises. Linkage to formal sources of credit has significantly increased the number of entrepreneurs in India. I wanted to give you the example of what we are trying to do through the Atal Innovation Mission, because from class 6 onwards, over 3,500 schools, we have provided robots, 3D printers, Internet of Things to students, and we found these students becoming extremely innovative, and some path-breaking work has been done in these Atal Tinkering Labs. Our attempt has been to encourage entrepreneurship among school and college students. Our women and S-JJIs are already doing great work in running enterprises that are focused on minimizing waste and in making the most of resources. Technology needs to be tapped, and innovation can go a long way in helping these, many of these, particularly the women cooperatives, to do great business and have sustainable enterprises. In Kerala, I had worked in the fisheries sector with traditional fishermen and fisherwomen, and there again, technology, beach level auctioning, bringing in new fishing crafts, fishing nets, outboard motors, opening their bank accounts had led to, they used to get just about 28% of the market price of fish, but technology and beach level auction led it being raised to close to about 80%. Lastly, I want to make the point that there is a need to improve work-life balance and social security. Introduction of parental leave by startups. Zomato has recently introduced parental leave for both men and women, and other enterprises is a progressive measure that will encourage gender equality and lead more women to participate in employment. The Pradhan Mantri Rozgar Protsahan Yojana, where the government now contributes the entire 12% of employers' contribution towards employees' pension scheme and employees' provident fund to all eligible new employees for a period of 3 years in all sectors, has also led to increased access to social security benefits of the organized sector for more than 1 crore workers. I think such measures and others that provide social protection to working individuals can play a transformative role in improving working opportunities and improving the way individuals experience work and employment. My view is that this is a unique initiative, the Just Job Network, which developing a state Just Job Index is a very comprehensive and a very data-driven tool to measure both the quality and quantity of job. It's a first of its kind, and I greatly appreciate this, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate the with the Just Jobs Network, the Center for Policy Research, the Azim Premji University, because it truly broadens the discourse on employment beyond just looking at incomplete metrics of unemployment and delves into factors. And once you start ranking, you put this data in public domain, you start challenging the states, you start naming and shaming them, change happens. The best way is, there's nothing better than putting data in public domain. And I think once we need to publicize this in a big way, and once that happens, I'm sure states will act, and states will act fast to improve the quality of jobs in their states. Thank you very much. My congratulations.
So now if I could just first apologize to those that still had questions, and Ravinder, particularly my apologies to you that your question was cut in the middle. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, and I look forward to talking with you more about your questions at the break. But I would like to very much thank Shri Amitabh Kant for coming here today. And Partho, if I may now turn to you to just re-deliver your closing remarks.
But before that, if I can ask Mr. Kant, would you be willing to take a couple of questions from the audience?
I think they should be responding.
Whichever, if you have a few minutes, if Ravinder, if you, and...
Maybe we could start
yes.
with
Yeah.
Ravinder.
I remember a couple of
I
things.
don't think my question was for Amitabh. It was for your team. So
Yes.
I was saying that, the whole distinction today between work and job. We may not have jobs, but people have to work, and their work. And this platform economy is a good illustration of that. And people doing multiple jobs for livelihoods. So my question was, how does the Just Jobs Index capture that type of work? Would it make a difference to how the states come out, etc. on that? So that was one question. It's a conceptual distinction, and whether one can take it into account. So the other thing was about the gender thing. I just wanted to know a little bit more. And the fact that Delhi's statistics are so disappointing, I have a hypothesis on that, but I think we'll discuss it in the roundtable later.
Thank you.
One, yes.
Maybe, yes,
The gentleman here in the pink shirt. Yes.
Okay, and then.
I was very happy to see that the data has also got, along with the quantitative, the qualitative aspects as well, talking about stories and other relevant, factors. I was just trying to see that how are we going to factor in future, the disappearing girl child, which impacts the, which eschews the gender ratio. That is my worry. And the second, of course, which has been dealt by Mr. Chenoy and many others, that when we talk about gender equality, we also need to take care of women, and the safety of women, which has been discussed again and again, has been an issue in the NCR, which is very worrying. And when we talk of the speaker who was talking before me, the worry is that the national capital of India, and that to the south part of it, has the lowest gender ratio. Haryana, which is close by, we see that it is, the figures that keep coming, they are actually not true. If they were to be true, then how is it that so many children are disappearing? And not only that, the rapes that are taking place, even for the girl child, it is very, very shocking. So in order to ensure that we create some kind of awareness, and, along with the collection of data, if we have a mechanism to create some kind of awareness so that these issues are taken care of. And another thing which we need to actually worry about is the neglect of the education of the women who are in the labor force. We see them every day. They are just roaming around. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Did you want to?
Given the, the last question there, and then we can close.
Yeah, so my question to Amit sir, that as just you have mentioned that and illustrated that the different technological platforms are creating a job in urban setting, but these are jobs are precarious in nature and need creating, so I need a more articulation, because after down the line we have to see a security of youth, because currently we can romanticize about the nature of job that people are getting, but they are not a very much quality product actually.
Thank you. No, I think we would need to close now. So let me just begin by the three kinds of issues that came up. I think the issues of gender came up, the issue of technology came up, and of course, as Mr. Kant mentioned, the three issues that I think highlighted some of the issues that came through is transparency, that he says was essentially, if you have sunlight on data, it's essentially going to bring change. And he pointed out a number of examples, of course, where it has. And I'm sorry. And secondly, there would be issues relating to the nature of education, and Anurag was talking about that, about how you need to go beyond the kind of education you're talking through, and your example of AIM, which is currently a pilot, I think is a very impressive example. The question to see is how we can scale that up more and more to public schools, and what kind of mechanisms can we have to have more people in public schools get that kind of issue. And third, the issue that I think was brought about was the issue of the digital platform, and we have heard over the election a lot of angst and anger about the use of WhatsApp and other such fake news kind of structures from all sides. But it also can be an extremely positive force for change. And the ability of the same outreach that was used to generate political momentum and organization could also be used to spread the word about entrepreneurship, teach new skills, which is what I think Mr. Kant was pointing to. And yes, I mean, as you said rightly, I remember one of the new investors in Zomato, which essentially grew from about 1,500 employees to about almost 100,000 employees over the course of last year, say that, look, this is a high technology platform, but the jobs that we are creating among Zomato partners is relatively low-skilled jobs. But the other thing that I think has come about there, as Mr. Kant has mentioned, is the ability of technology and schemes such as this contribution of Provident Fund by the government to create that social net even for people who are, and reduce that degree of precarity. And that is, and engaging with that conversation, I think, would be something that we need to do a lot of work going forward. So thank you so much, Mr. Kant, for making the time, and it was really nice of you that after that thing, you really did make the time to make for us to come through. Very much appreciate that, and we look forward to working with you and taking this index forward. Thank you. Thank you so much.